Hello guys, welcome to our second tutorial of this CSS Crash Course. In this tutorial, as I promised you in the previous one, we are going to be looking at IDs and classes. So when dealing with IDs and classes, I think the only difference that you need to know is if you create an ID should always be unique. And the classes, you can have as many classes with the same name as you want. So with an ID name should always be unique. So let's say if you end up having two IDs on your file or on your page, their names should always be different. But with classes, you can have as many classes as you want with the same name. So yeah, let's get started with it. Let's say I already have my HTML open up here from our previous tutorial. So if you don't have your HTML, make sure you open it up and you open up a new notepad. Like we are working only with notepad. I have my HTML here. I also have my CSS file, which as you can see is empty. I also open up my file here in my browser, and then my CSS, I link it to my HTML. So make sure you do all that. If you don't know how to link your CSS, make sure you watch our previous tutorial since I show you guys how to do all that. So yeah, let's go ahead and create our IDs and classes. So I'm just going to copy all this and cut it. Let's say you are creating an ID, right? So create a div with an ID. That's how you write an ID. You close it off, close off your div. So you want to give, let's say you want to give your ID as a wrapper, right? And then right, a wrapper. So if you wanted to create another ID in this same file or on this page, you will create it with a different name. It's no more a wrapper. So let's just go ahead and paste this inside here. So if you wanted to go ahead and create another div, you can create a div. You close it off, a div, but you should give it a different ID, a different ID name. Sorry, it can be wrapper 1 or wrapper 2, or you can give it a completely different name like wrap, as long as it's not the same as the one that is on top. So your ID name should always be unique. Your ID name should always be unique. Well, with classes, let's just delete that, and then with classes, let's go ahead and copy this and cut it. You have your ID, which is wrapper. I'm just going to keep that one, and then with classes, you can create a div, close it off. You can give it a class name. Let's say a class name. Let's say just give it whatever you can be first. So you can have 2 or 3 or 4 classes with the same name as first class. So you can copy this inside. Let's say you can paste that in. So you can copy this div here and then paste it again here and here, and then Ctrl S to save. As you can see, you have 3 classes with the same name as first. This is your first div with a class name of first, your second div with a class name of first, your third div with a class name of first. So with classes, you can have as many classes as you want with the same name, but with an ID, always make sure that your ID is unique. So yeah, let's keep that in. So now let's move on to our CSS to see how we can actually style our divs and ID. So you already know you create your ID with a name wrapper, right? So to call an ID in CSS, we use a hashtag and then call your name, your selector, which is wrapper. Let's just give that let's say we want to give it a background color. a background color, let's say orange. Control S to save. Make sure you Control S to save and then come into your browser and then refresh. So you can see your div, your wrapper div got the background color of orange. As you can see, everything, all our classes here are between our wrapper div. This is the opening wrapper and then this is the closing. So everything it's between that. So as you can see that, and then to style it, you start off with a hashtag and then you call out your selector, which is your ID name. Let's just close this off. Sorry about that. You have to make sure you close it off with that curly bracket. So to call out a class, we use a point, which is, and then we a point, and then we call our selector, which is first. So you call out your selector first, and then let's say we wanted to give it a background, or let's say we wanted to give it a background color as well. Change the background color, a background color, let's say of purple. Control S to save, come into your browser and then refresh. As you can see, your classes, you got 3 classes in this wrapper div. So you got 3 here. As you can see, everything is now purple. All your classes are purple. So that's how you work with IDs and div. So what if you wanted to target only one ID or one class or one div? Let's say what if you only wanted to target this one? So you can give it a different class name. It can have the same class name, or you can put another class name, let's say second. You don't have to write a class again like this, second. You don't have to do that. You can just, let's just delete this. You can just come in between your quotation here and then put a space. Make sure they are not together, because if they are together like this, it will take it as only one class name. So put a space there and then this will be second. That will be second, right? Then you come into your CSS and then you want to target that class, so you call it, which is second, and let's say you wanted to change the color of your text, so you can call it out. Let's make it let's say you wanted to, so let's make it, what if you make it, let's say make it green, and then come into your browser and refresh. As you can see, now you only targeted this class. As you can see, everything here is now changed to green. You can target that as well. You can just say the font size, let's make it 20 pixel. You are targeting that second div. You see, you are not targeting all the classes, you only want classes in between here. So Control S to save and then come into your browser, refresh. As you can see, everything is now a bit bigger. The other thing that I wanted us to look at, it's you can also change, let's say, the width of this. So you can change the width. Let's say we wanted to, let's make this 700 pixel, and then you can make this the width to, let's say, 900 pixel. Control S to save and then refresh. Just make this big. As you can see, it's looking like this, but you'll see if you scroll to, you make your browser a bit small, it's not responding, it's not responsive. That's why I will advise you, when dealing with classes, you should always use a percentage. Let's say you want that to, let's make it 90%, and then this, let's make it 70%. Control S to save, come into your browser and then refresh. As you can see, this it's like responding to the size of your browser. It's responding to the size of your browser. You zoom in, you see it's responding. So I will advise you to always use percentage whenever you are dealing with classes and the width of classes and all that. But you can still use pixel, but if you're going to be dealing with responsive website, I'll advise you to always use percentage, because that makes it easier for you. So yeah, the last thing that I want us to look at, it's with classes and IDs, you can still target this. It makes it easier. Let me say it makes it easier for you to target these HTML elements individually. So what I mean by that, let's say you only wanted to target the header one. So the age one, yeah, this one. So let's just delete the color green from this. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, they are now back to default. So if you only wanted to target that, you can come into here and then call out your wrapper. Since you want to target all the h1 in the wrapper div, you can call that and then h1, and then you can set the color. Let's say you want the color to be, let's make it green. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, your h1, they are now green. And then you can change, let's say you want to change the font size to, let's say, 50 pixel. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, your h1, they are now a bit bigger. So you can do the same with let's say you wanted to target only this, the paragraph of your second class. You can target it. You already know your second class is second, so you call it, which is second, and then P, you call out your selector, which is your paragraph tag, and then you can change, let's say, your font size. Let's say you wanted to, no, the font size we already changed it. Let's say you wanted to change the color, you wanted to make it blue. Control S to save and then refresh. As you can see, your color is now blue. Your paragraph color is now blue. So yeah, with classes and IDs, they make it easier for you to target this HTML element, let's say, individually. So yeah, that's all that we needed to cover in this tutorial. I hope you find it helpful. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up and leave us a comment down below. And if this is your first time, make sure you consider subscribing, guys. So yeah, this is it. I will see you guys in the next tutorial, where we are going to be talking about paddings and margins. I'm out.